Golf gets more expensive by the minute. Yep, it just got more expensive. But here's what nobody tells you. While we're out here trying to get better at golf, some brands are out there working overtime in order to trick us. Now, not just clever marketing, I'm talking disingenuous claims, and in some cases, outright lies. Today, I'm breaking down 7 dirty tactics that golf brands use in order to separate us from our hard-earned money. Some of these you've probably seen, but a few even seasoned golfers have absolutely no idea about. Actually, there's an 8th. I've got a bonus for you at the end, and that might be the trickiest of them all. Let's dive in. The first trick I want to talk about today is the myth of longer drives. What we should be talking about is longer shafts. See, when you go for a fitting and you try out that brand new shiny driver and you hit it all of a sudden 5, 10, even 20 yards further than your old driver, there could actually be a very simple explanation: the length of the driver shaft. See, if you go back a few years, drivers used to be 43 inches, but today we're often seeing driver shafts push the limit of 46 inches. A lot of the big name brands use 45 3/4 inch shafts, which are going to provide more club head speed, which leads to more ball speed and ultimately more distance, but you're going to be sacrificing consistency and dispersion in order to achieve those gains. It's a sneaky tactic in order to make their brand new driver look a lot better than their previous models or your old one. So one way to avoid this is to actually bring a tape measure with you when you're testing out drivers, or ask your fitter, who probably has a tape measure laying around somewhere. That way you can rule out if just a longer shaft is causing those extra yards. So the second trick on our list is how golf brands number their clubs. See, back in the day, a 7-iron used to be a 36-degree club, but now with our forward press clubs, we're seeing them oftentimes at 32 degrees, and game improvement clubs can sometimes be found as low as 27.5 degrees. I've tested irons on this show that were that loft jacked. What happens is when you press that loft, you are going to get faster ball speeds and, again, more distance. So when you go into a fitting and now see that you're hitting your 7-iron 185 yards and your old one you're only hitting 155 yards, you may want to find out the answer to what is the degree of loft on that particular club. Now, the good news is that golf brands way down at the bottom of the spec sheet will generally list the loft specs for you. So you can literally match those up against what you currently have and see if those gains are artificial and manufactured or if it's real technology being used. And it's not just the 7-iron, of course, this is prevalent throughout the bag, all the way from 3-iron to pitching wedge, gap wedge, and the like. In fact, this problem has actually led to folks having to carry more wedges in their bag because lofts are so pressed now. What was once a pitching wedge is now more like an 8 or 9-iron, so you've got a big gap there at the bottom of your bag. It feels great to say that your 7-iron is now traveling 185 yards when your old clubs only hit it 155 yards, but do the research and make sure to rule out that it's not just the loft of the club making you feel a lot better about yourself. The third trick on my list is repainting designs and re-releasing new models. Now, this is one that we don't see a lot, but it absolutely does happen. And I'll give you a couple of specific examples where brands literally take a model and a design that they have released previously, they repaint it, they may put a different head cover on it, different packaging, but essentially they're selling the exact same club again, making you feel like you've got a new club when you've really got an old club in the bag. I actually carry a club in my bag that in 2024 I bought new. It was my TaylorMade mini driver, but it was exactly the same as the previous model that TaylorMade released in 2023. Callaway and Costco have also done a similar thing with the Edge set. There have been 3 models over the course of those clubs being inside of Costco. You've got the green model, then you had a gold model, and now you have the blue model. Well, guess what? All of those irons were exactly the same. And furthermore, those irons were actually based on an older design that Callaway had actually used before. You'll also see this quite often used with package sets. So these are going to be the budget sets that come with driver all the way down to putter. And oftentimes, in order to kind of freshen up the line, golf club manufacturers will simply repaint, repackage them, and sell them again as a new set. So the way to combat that, again, is really just to do your research, go into some forums. Generally, there are going to be savvy people in the comment sections. Even channels like this here on YouTube, the Let's Play Through audience, will tell you if these clubs have existed before. That way you might be able to save some money, buy the same club you wanted to buy anyways, but just get the older model and pocket the difference. So we're only 3 tricks into this video, and you might be wondering to yourself, how do these golf brands sleep at night? Honestly, I have no idea. but I can tell you that I've been getting the best sleep of my life, and it's all thanks to today's sponsor, Bear Mattress. So about 3 months ago, I got my hands on one of these, and wow. I'm finally sleeping through the night, waking up without the soreness and aches and pains I had, and I'm honestly just performing better during the day. It's been a huge difference. Now, everyone's got their own preferences on how they like their mattress, so Bear's got options. I took their sleep quiz, it was super easy, and it matched me and my wife to the Elite Hybrid. We're both side sleepers, and we wanted something that was firm, but it was also breathable, because I'm here in Florida. It gets super hot at night, and it can be very uncomfortable if you feel like you're sleeping in an oven. I can assure you this one keeps me cool all night long. The delivery, it was crazy fast. It showed up right at the door in a box, and when I opened it, the mattress literally expanded like a loaf of bread in the oven. And of course, it took just a couple of hours to settle in before the kids were jumping all over it. One thing I love is that Bear mattresses are made without fiberglass or harmful chemicals, so there's no off-gassing and nothing sketchy to worry about. They also give you 120 nights to sleep on it and make sure you love it, along with a limited lifetime warranty, and if you need it, they offer financing options and even flexible payment plans. And if you're wondering if it's worth it, Bear surveyed over 300 customers. 82% said their sleep improved, and 95% said they would recommend it to a friend. I count myself in that group. I love my Bear mattress, and I think you will too. If you're looking to upgrade your sleep, head over to bearmattress.com/letsplaythrough and enter my code letsplaythrough. That's gonna save you 40%, which is the best deal you're gonna find on the site, and I recommend you check them out while you can. And hey, if you do end up picking one up, and you want to support this channel, make sure to let them know in the post-purchase survey that I sent you. I would appreciate it. Now, the fourth trick on our list is the country of origin. There are a lot of manufacturers that say their clubs are made in the USA while they're actually assembling them in the USA, but they're sourcing the components from Asia. I can tell you this as an industry insider, pretty much every single club head that we play, whether it's direct-to-consumer brands all the way up to the big OEM names, almost every single one of those heads is sourced in either China or Taiwan. The other crazy thing is that the direct-to-consumer brands, which are often considerably cheaper than their OEM counterparts, are made in the exact same factory. But the big brands are never gonna tell you that, of course. Like anything, there are exceptions to the rules, but by and large, do your research and really find out if that made in USA club is truly made in USA. You might get some shocking answers from the internet. The next tactic on our list is tour sponsorships. Now, to my point previous about how they're often made in the same factory, I will tell you unequivocally after testing hundreds, maybe thousands of golf clubs on this show, that often big name brands are no different and no better than their direct-to-consumer alternatives. In fact, if you want to see a video I made on that very subject and you want alternatives to the big name brands, I'm going to leave this video for you right here. But because tour players use the big name brands and we see them all the time, a lot of us think they must be superior when they're really not. Now, the crazy thing is because tour players are often contractually obligated to play the latest and greatest from brand X, and that might not actually be the club they really want to use, sometimes the tour players will disguise it. There's been cases of tour players literally using the new head covers on top of old clubs. There's even been rumors of tour players repainting their clubs or even stamping different names on their clubs. I don't know if that's verified or not, but it honestly would not shock me. So again, do your research. Don't just buy something because your favorite tour player is using it. You've got to do your own testing. You've got to do your own fitting to make sure that that's the best club for you. So I'm going to stay on this train of thought for my next trick on the list. And that's the idea that tour pros are going to be playing the same clubs that you're playing. First of all, there is a considerable difference between a tour spec golf club and something that you're going to pull off the rack. What you're playing is not what your favorite golfer is playing out on tour. The pros are playing clubs that have been hot melted, they've been hand weighted, they've been tour only spec'd, and almost certainly they're playing shafts that you're not going to find on the rack. They're generally playing a custom shaft. I've got a whole tip about shafts here real quick, which is going to shock you as well. So again, when you think you're playing the same club as your favorite professional out there, it might be completely set up differently. So the next time you see a tour player's what's in the bag, just know there's a lot more hiding beneath the surface that oftentimes even the tour player doesn't know about themselves. It's certainly not going to be the same club that's going to be available to you. The next trick on my list is thinking that newer is always better. better. See, here's the thing. A lot of the big brands have a board of directors or shareholders that are steering the ship in the background. And that's why we're seeing releases often twice a year from golf club manufacturers. We'll get a spring release and then we'll get a fall release. That's all to keep new products churning and to make you think that there's always a constant improvement when there isn't necessarily one. And if you actually want proof on this, you can take a look at what's in the bag for those tour players we spoke about. Oftentimes, they will actually be playing a previous generation model than the latest and greatest offered by that brand. Why do they do that? Because no matter how good the brand's marketing is, newer is not always better. And that's exactly the reason that I'm always testing each release from these manufacturers to see if there are significant improvements. And we like to do comparisons like that. Again, make sure you do the research with folks that you trust here on YouTube and other independent publications, see their test results, their side-by-side comparisons, and find out if the clubs are actually improving. There's certainly been a number of cases here on this show where I would prefer to spend less money and get a club that's 2 or 3 years older than purchase the new model from that brand. So that's 7 tricks that golf brands use, but I promised you a bonus one, and here is my 8th trick. That is made for shafts. See, stock shafts often look like, but are not the same as the real aftermarket counterparts. Famously, there are some big brand drivers out on the market that come with a Ventus Blue shaft, but the performance is inferior to a real Ventus Blue Velocore model. They look almost identical. They've got the same branding, the same paint job, but there's no Velocore. Without the Velocore, that shaft can be manufactured much more cheaply, and you feel like you're getting a premium product when you're really not. Another one to look out for is Tensei shafts. They're not all created equal either. The shaft might say Tensei on the label, but there's actually no tungsten weighting. There's cheaper resins being used. It's got a lighter and softer profile, and there are lower tolerances. That is generally the difference between the made-for shafts and the actual shafts themselves. The tolerances are going to be much, much tighter with the real deal. It's going to lead to more consistent results, and that's what having a properly fitted shaft really does for you. It makes your swing as consistent as it can be. So once again, when you're buying clubs off the rack, again, take a closer look at what those shafts say, and if you see that made for designation, just know that you're not getting the same as the aftermarket shaft. There are generally going to be some compromises, and you have to decide if you can live with that or not. So that's how they do it, and now that you're armed with that information, I hope you will be able to make better and smarter decisions on your next golf club purchases. There are many great products out there, but you just have to generally look a little bit beneath the surface. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know that I couldn't cover all of the tricks that manufacturers use, so I'd love to keep the discussion going. Drop me down in the comments your thoughts on other ways that those marketing practices can be a little bit deceptive and separate us from our money. Make sure to hit subscribe, and I'll catch you back here next time on another edition of Let's Play Through.